we'll have Coach make his opening statement, and we'll take questions. Coach?
Okay. Looking back at last week's game, I think, defensively, I told the guys I think we're playing, as fast as we have played to this point in the season. I think the guys are playing with a good bit of confidence. They seem to, really enjoy playing the game with each other. I think there's a swagger and an energy that we're playing with right now, and that needs to continue as we navigate through the regular season here. I think there's some opportunities that we're creating from a pass rush standpoint that we're improving in. We still left a lot out on the field in terms of pass rush opportunities that we were not able to capitalize on, and so there's some things that we've just got to continue to push and work. But I do think that we're trending in the right direction there. And then the way that we're playing in the red zone right now has given us a chance, to get off the field, and then certainly our ability to create some takeaways. And I think, all those reps that we have worked in the off season and throughout the season in our takeaway circuit. I mean, you had a couple plays in the game the other night that, they're textbook teach tape plays. So that was really encouraging to see in terms of ripping the ball out, punching the ball out. And so I think we're taking steps in the right direction there. When you look at this opponent in Oklahoma, obviously they're a very dynamic offense, quarterback that, can do a lot with his feet. He's got, really good arm talent, kind of, puts the ball all over the yard. He's got a lot of different arm angles and the way that he gets the ball out in the RPO game and the quick game, and being able to scramble and create and extend plays. You look at some of their off-schedule plays or some of their most explosive plays, and so that's something that we got to do a great job of having 11 bodies that are swarming to the ball, play in and play out. I really like their running back room. I think they do a really good job. Physical, big. When they get out in space, they've been able to hit you for explosive plays, and then there's a couple guys in their receiving core that are pretty dynamic with the ball in their hands as well. So it'll be a great challenge for us, like it is every week in the SEC, and looking forward to the week of work ahead.
Thank you, Coach. Let's start with Charlie here on the right.
Yeah, Coach, just with your inside linebacker play of late, how do you see that going? It kind of seems like all three of those seniors are playing at a high level.
Yeah, I think those guys are doing a good job. I mean, they're you look at Deontay, he's just coming back from where he was a year ago, and he's just gotten better and better coming off of that injury from last season. I think he's playing some of his best football right now, which is really encouraging. I think he's playing fast, he's playing aggressive, and then just the leadership that he brings to the table, and the peace of mind I think that the rest of the team has when he's out there on the field from a communication standpoint of getting everybody on the same page. A large part of good defense right now is not losing games by errors and mistakes and MAs, and you see that really across the country right now when you look at defensive play. And I think right now one of the things that we're doing at a fairly high level is just executing to consistency, and he's a big piece to that as well. But I thought Nikai Hill-Green probably played his best game of the season so far. Those guys are trending in the right direction, and certainly that's what you want. Good teams get better, good defenses get better, and we've just challenged our guys to take little steps in terms of improving their game as we're going along. I think that group is doing that.
Let's go to Nick on the right.
Yeah, I feel like playmakers is a word that gets thrown around a lot, but this, especially with the offense at times, but defensively it seems like you have some playmakers. I know that you harp on taking the ball away, but is being a playmaker something that defenders can be taught, or is that something that they just innately have?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, typically when you make plays on the ball, there's a confidence that you have in doing your job at a high level, and so you know what to do. You play with anticipation. I've told you guys this before. Defense is inherently reactionary, right? Offense comes out in a play, we react to it. But if you start to understand what we're doing at a high level, and you recognize what the offense is getting ready to do, right, then all of a sudden you can play with anticipation, and anticipation creates production. And so I think we've got guys that are playing with more anticipation as we go throughout the season. They're seeing more football. A lot of times you see the things that show up on tape that you've put out on tape, you're going to see those things again. Teams have a style of how, they maybe want to try to game plan and attack us, and our kids, I think, are very aware of the weak points and weaknesses of a certain coverage or a certain pressure or whatever it may be. And so they're ready for those things and playing at a higher level. And then, some of it is just great instincts and in the moment, right? Can you think to, punch the ball out, right? Or create a strip in the moment. And I think you got guys like, Bray Hubbard and Nikai and Deontay Lawson, to name a few that are doing those things.
Go to the front row on the left, Colin.
Looks like the tandem of Tim Keenan and James Smith, and then London Simmons, Edric Hill, like pretty equal in terms of snap counts. Is that due to keeping guys fresh, rolling guys in and out, or is it what it goes into that? And do you see kind of a continuation of production between those two groups, or how would you assess it?
Yeah, I think I think Freddie does a good job of keeping those guys engaged, and to me they're they do a good job in the week of practice and the week of preparation, and then they get out there on game day. We try to be mindful of, like, you want to play those guys early because as the game goes on, if there's one guy that has a hot hand, or going into the game there's a guy that's clearly the better player, you want to make sure that dude is available right in the fourth quarter. And so we try to really push ourselves to an uncomfortable position of getting guys on the field, simply because you want to make sure that when you get into that game like we had against South Carolina, we played a lot of players early in the earlier part of that game, and I think at the end you saw some of our best players step up and make plays in big moments, like Tim Keenan and Deontay Lawson. At the beginning of the season, I don't think either one of those two players would have been in position to do that, just from a rep-based standpoint. And so we try to be mindful of that as we navigate through a game.
Let's go back row in the middle to Alex.
Your guys' numbers may differ from PFF, but they only track one missed tackle in the game. I'm really curious, given what we saw earlier in the season, how you guys got to that point where you're able to put together a game like that.
Yeah, I think teams that good defenses trend in the right direction from a tackling efficient standpoint. I mean, as the season goes on, if you're not efficient in tackling, it's going to show up. And so I think we're getting better and better at that. I think structurally the way that we play kind of a more of a vision style defense, right? There's a lot more vice tackles. There's not a lot of yards after catch or yards after contact. And so that structurally kind of helps us a little bit as well. But I thought our players, go back to the point I made at the beginning, that was probably the fastest that I have seen us play as a defense to this point in the season. And one of our keys to victory going in, because they were so dynamic in their receiving core and their athletes, was that we really had to swarm the ball. And I think our players, they played hard and they played fast. And when you do that, two things tend to be the case. You're going to do a good job at tackling, right, and limiting yards after contact. And then you're also going to create takeaways. Effort always creates takeaways. So.
Let's go to Joe, left middle.
Coach, last time you faced off against Ben Arbuckle was the New Orleans Bowl. What do you remember about that matchup at South Alabama, and what have you seen, and what do you see in the Oklahoma offense right now, what he's doing with the Oklahoma offense right now?
Yeah, we got our ass kicked is what happened, yeah. So I appreciate you bringing that up. I needed a little edge this morning, so that's good. No, they I feel like we have faced this offense and this system a number of times over the years, and I think they do a great job just schematically. They attack you vertically downfield. They're aggressive. They got great RPO answers into their run game schemes, and they always have little one-off runs that you got to defend. They do a good job of changing those things up. I think Ben did a great job in that game and has done a good job in his first year there at Oklahoma, and so it'll be a good challenge for us. I mean, this is the SEC. You face really good offensive minds every single week, and you have a body of work that you've put on tape that you have to answer for. Some of those things are good things that we put on film. Some of those things are not, and if they're not, they're probably going to show up in the game plan, right? And so those are things that we really try to be mindful of ourselves in terms of how we can fix those things. But certainly, they'll present a number of schematic challenges for us this week.
Let's jump to Chase on the far left.
I want to ask you a little bit more about Nikai Hill-Green. When he came from Colorado, his reputation was a little bit more of like a downhill gap plugger, but over the last month or so, it seems like he's making more plays in space outside the tackle box. Can you just speak to that part of his game?
Yeah, I think he's again, he's playing some of his best football right now. Nikai is, the players, they call him Unk. I think he's the oldest guy in our defense. He's 24 years old, and he's just so solid and so steady, and he knows. He knows where his eye progression is supposed to be. He knows where he's supposed to be from a landmark standpoint, alignments, pre-snap. He does all the things right before he has to make the play so that he gives himself the best opportunity to make the play. He'll tell you, he's not the fastest guy out there. He's not the most athletic guy out there, but he's athletic enough, and his elite trait is his ability to diagnose before he has to go make the play, and he's doing that at an elite level right now.
Jump to Matt on the right side.
Yeah, Oklahoma has scored on every red zone possession they've had this year.
Yeah.
What do they do well down there, and what's kind of the key to stopping them?
Well, they have, they do a really good job with their 1+ quarterback run. Usually when you look at an offense that can run the ball from the quarterback position, they're going to be more effective in the red zone because you can't stretch people vertically anymore in the passing game, right? You need that extra piece in the run game. I think they do a really good job of mixing that up. They also have a great RPO system, and so they can still attack you laterally when they're still threatening you with the quarterback 1+ run game. So they do a really nice job of using all of their bodies and also using all of the width of the field in those situations. And so they'll be challenging for us. I think we've done a really nice job in the red zone defensively. I think our guys have a lot of fight. I think more than anything, there's just a confidence that our players have whenever we get down in that situation. We talk about the, E-Bombay all the time, right? The hold fast the line. That our kids believe those things. They believe that no matter how they got down there, kind of the illustration I always create for them in fall camp is you're dragging the opponent into deep waters, right? And then at that point, right, you're drowning them out, and that's what our guys are doing a good job of.
All right, we'll finish up with Johnny standing up on the back left.
Obviously, you're going to be going up against the Oklahoma offense, but Brent Venables has a long track record of being a good defensive mind. As a fellow defensive guy, what do you admire about the way that he schemes and calls his defenses?
Yeah, Brent's obviously had a great career as a defensive mind and has done a really good job. I'm sure, myself being a head coach at a time, I didn't get to call plays, and you kind of miss those things. And I'm sure he's enjoying getting back into that as being the play caller again now. He's doing a tremendous job of it. I think, when I watch them, there's been some crossover opponents, so we've gotten to see them defensively. They do such a great job of mixing their front. They do a good job of putting some of their playmakers in position to be most effective and most productive, especially from a pass rush standpoint. But what's probably one of the most impressive things is how versatile they are in terms of what they ask their guys to do schematically, and they don't make a whole lot of mistakes. I think that's one of the things that I'm seeing right now across the board is that there's teams that do a lot around the country defensively, and it's really good scheme, but ultimately you can point to 2, 3, 4 times in the game, right, where they mis-executed their scheme and they gave up explosive plays, right, and some of those for touchdowns. Oklahoma has done a really good job of having a great volume of scheme, and yet they're still executing at a pretty high level, and so that's a credit to Brent and his staff and certainly the players and their ability to execute. All right, thanks, guys. Roll Tide.
That question was really for that. Yeah. Are you crying? I'm not going to encourage that.
We can't have copycat fans here. Come on. Give more credit than I don't.
You're welcome.
Good morning.
Let's go ahead and start with Nick here on the front right.
Yeah, postgame Ty was talking about the running game and saying that there's some mental aspects that he thinks are getting in the way of success at times. How do you think the mental game is affecting the running game at this point?
I don't think it's a mental thing. I think there's some physical things that the guys know we got to do a little bit better, and I know they're going to battle to make those things right. So I don't think it's a mental issue. I don't think there was a bunch of missed assignments or some guys getting beat at the point of attack at times, and we got to improve that, and they will.
Jump to the far left, Chase.
I want to ask you about Ty's role on the double pass from Jeremy to Lotzer Brooks. I realize sending him on a pass route helps keep traffic off of Brooks, but was any concern on your part that the quarterback running through the middle of the secondary with his hand up might expose him to an unnecessary shot or anything?
No, not any more than dropping back and getting hit. So, no, Ty's pretty athletic. He knows to keep his head on a swivel.
Jump to the far right, let's go to Charlie.
When you're watching that Oklahoma defense, what kind of jumps out to you immediately on film?
Very multiple. They do a great job. Coach Venables has obviously been around a long time, knows how to do it. Is a guy that's going to look to attack your weaknesses, and he's got a very specific game plan for each offense. I think that's what makes him somewhat unique, is that how he attacks Ole Miss isn't necessarily how he attacks Texas and so on and so forth. So I think, the multiple looks up front, they got a lot of defensive looks as far as the secondary and how they match their fronts. They do a really good job mixing that up, utilizing their personnel in different ways. They got a big kid, number 5, who is kind of like the Simmons kid they had at Clemson. They move him all over the field, and he's super athletic. So, yeah, they create different pictures for you, which as an offensive guy, I can really look at and appreciate. So he's going to make you earn it.
Let's jump to second row to the left to Will.
Coach, what are some of the strides and steps you want to see your offense take in the downfield passing game?
Obviously, the low-hanging fruit there is complete the big open ones, right? And those are things I think there's a little bit of carryover there from the weeks previously, just getting the ball out earlier and on time and making sure that we give our guys a chance to the football down the field. So obviously we had a couple that didn't hit there that would have been big plays that we had guys open on. I think some of those things you can overthink at times, where we've seen those guys make those plays a million times out on the practice field. So just getting to a situation where we feel better about when that ball's coming out, staying on time with our footwork's matching the throw, and just staying confident in that process.
Jump to the front row, Colin.
What attributes or characteristics would you define to a good run blocking offensive line, and do you see that in your current offensive line?
Yeah, I see it. They're there. A big part is being able to handle movement, and then just having, bent knees, low angles, tight hands, and tight feet. And sometimes I think right now we're playing with our feet a little bit long on our second step, all the little details that you got to be better at. And then some of our double teams have lacked coming together, and that's it's all the things we got to keep working on. So the guys know what it is. I believe in them. I know that they're going to be able to get it done, and we just got to stick to the process. Right now, if we continue to just what I told the guys was if we're only focused on the outcome right now, I think that's part of the problem is there's too much noise going on where they're listening to the narrative of we can't do this, we can't do that. We got to focus on what we can do, and there's some things we're really good at, and it does not showing up right now, but it will. And we got good players that are committed to the process, and we're lucky to have them.
Go to Joe, middle left.
Coach, a couple weeks ago, Lane Kiffin suggested that Oklahoma might be good at stealing signs or gathering information. Is that something that you guys have talked about this week, and will y'all maybe change signs up or maybe approach the offensive play calling a little differently, the process of the offensive play calling a little differently?
For sure, on all fronts. They're good at that, number one, and number two, we'll be changing everything. So if Coach Venables listening, just know they're all changing. But they do everything within the parameters of the game, though, and they're nothing illegal about what they do. They're good at what they do, so certainly have to take that into consideration.
Right next to him there. Theo, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, do you think there's any correlation between some of the struggles running the ball and some of the struggles in the deep passing game? Do you think you need one to open up the other? Do you think there's even any relationship there?
Always. It's not a maybe thing. Obviously, consistency in the run game is going to allocate more people to the box and open up the throws down the field. I think as far as opportunities, for not having a ton of success running the football on Saturday, I thought we had really good opportunities to get the big shots down the field. And it didn't feel like it after the game, but I think 4 of our top 12 explosive plays on the season happened on Saturday night. So we had some big hits, but that's how you got to keep people out of those types, heavy boxes, a lot of people in there trying to make it hard on you, blitzing, things like that. You got to make them pay. And we did. We just didn't enough. And we had probably 3 other hits that would have been, 40-plus yard completions. Those are the ones that eventually when you hit 50-yard touchdowns and things like that, they will stop doing it. So it's our job to make sure that they stop doing it.
All right, let's finish up with Katie, right on the left.
Oklahoma leads the country in tackles for loss. I think it's top 5 in sacks. So just kind of what's the message to the offensive line this week about, holding strong along the line of scrimmage?
Yeah, I think I know our communication has to be elite. That's the one thing that, we probably don't talk about enough, like characteristics of good offensive linemen, all the things that, physically you want to have. But the number one thing is communication. When you have problems in the interior gaps and you don't take care of the interior gaps, whether it's pass protection or run blocking, those problems happen quick. And when we have problems on the inside, that's where the TFLs and the sacks come from. Quarterback's eyes will drop from pressure and people being in his face when it's in between the tackles. If stuff happens outside the edge, typically you can deal with that. But interior issues are where you get behind the chains, whether it's a 4-yard loss on an inside zone run or, it's a sack, a guy stepping right up the B gap. Those are where all your problems happen. And to me, our guys just we got to have a great week of communicating at the line of scrimmage. And that's the thing, really challenge the guys with, because they'll go after this, and they're going to be excited about the process with Parker. And, everybody just listening to Parker and what he says is what we're doing, and stick together with one count, because if you're going to be wrong together. It's going to make sure that as simple as it sounds, if you're wrong together, the problem will be on the outside, not on the inside, if we're all moving the same direction. So we can't have half the line doing one thing, the other half the line doing the other part. And if you stick to that, you'll always have a chance, whether you're protecting Ty or running the football. So we got to do a great job of that this week, and certainly Oklahoma will challenge us on that.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Yep, thank you.
make the opening statement whenever you're ready.
You bet. Good morning, and I know you heard from the coordinators, talked a little bit after the game on Saturday as well. Just really feel like, there's things we can continue to get better at, but very proud of the way we, continue to find a way to win and the resolve and the way the guys come back to work each and every day, but also in the game. Each series is its own, each play is its own, and now we come to Oklahoma where each game is its own game. And so probably one thing, since you do talk to the offense-defense coordinators, one thing to highlight, I think our special teams did a nice job. I know we missed the field goal, but, pinning LSU deep 3 times inside the 20 and the play down on the 1, those are plays you work on, and you just get a couple times every year to really make it happen. And our guys did that, and so I'm really proud of that, along with the kickoff coverage and just the coverage in general, on kickoff, punt. Our guys knew they had a challenge ahead of them this last weekend. If you really looked at what their stats were with those returners, it's pretty impressive, not just maybe this year, but over the course of their careers. And hats off to our guys. They really take a lot of ownership, not just in what they do on the field offensively, defensively, and individually, but our guys, making an impact on special teams. I'm proud of them. So, penalties, love the direction that continues to go. Just 2 for 25 yards and winning the takeover, winning the turnover margin, doing that each and every week. That's just really an identity of who we are. And we're going to have to really do that again this week because we're facing a team that I think abides by a lot of the same things that we emphasize when it comes to physicality, when it comes to, win the turnover margin, winning in the red zone, each side of the ball for Oklahoma. The same thing applies to, what we take a lot of pride in. So they have, good skill with their special teams, and you can see the field goals and their punting game. They excel there. So going to take all 3 phases to have a win come out this weekend, but ready for the week of practice. I know the guys are excited.
Thanks, Coach. Let's start with Katie, second row on the left.
This is a little off topic, but there was a lot of former Bama guys, NFL guys, Saban guys there at the game on Saturday. Just what's your approach having former players around, even the ones that didn't play for you, and just kind of how does that benefit the guys currently in the program?
Yeah, I love it. This is their program. It's ours all together, but they're the ones that built this and made it what it is, and love that they want to come back and are proud of what they accomplished and hopefully proud of what we're doing right now with so much recruiting and so forth. This week was probably one of those weeks where I didn't get to see as many as I normally do, and whether it's pregame or during the day or even the weekend. Saw a few of them, Booker in particular, which is a guy from last year's team. He was around. And, just that excites me because that's what we want. You want alumni to always feel like this is home and a place that they can come back to and be welcome and, want to, especially in the off season, it's a lot easier to do, but just really integrate everyone together. Our players, hearing the stories, understanding the history, learning as well on how they can continue to be better because a lot of these guys that are coming back have been in the NFL and understand what that next step looks like, and that's what our guys' goals and dreams are.
Jump to Nick on the front right.
Yeah, right now the offense has the fewest turnovers per game in the SEC, and the defense has the most takeaways per game in the SEC. Have you ever had a team like that, and what's been the key to having those two at the same time?
Yeah, it's emphasis. We talk about what our identity is, and what you just heard from me, and the things that I think are important are what our team heard Sunday. When we got in the team room and reviewed what went well, where we got to improve. But we talk about that. It doesn't happen by accident. We're working on ball security drills. We're working on stripping the ball, knocking it out. Nikai's punch on the ball was phenomenal. We made sure we highlighted that, not just what he's doing as a player, but that specific play, and emphasize even the one that we didn't get earlier. I believe it was the first drive of the game. And so, you keep doing those things. You play the percentages. I brought up the Missouri game where a couple didn't fall our way, but in the end we got some interceptions to finish out in the fourth quarter. And we're just talking about those plays, and it goes back to, defensively, make the offense snap it again. The Tennessee game and the interception for a touchdown, the play at the end of the game against South Carolina. Our guys believe, and they know if they give the effort and practice and work on those skills, protecting the ball as an offensive player, going after it defensively, and have that mindset and attacking. The habits or the habits that we have will lead to plays being made, and you create your own breaks.
Go to Chase, far left.
I know the coaching mentality tends to be this is this year and last year was last year, but is along with that, is there any reminder for the players that, hey, this is the team that kind of wrecked things last year goal-wise, or do you leave that to the veterans and the captains to remind players of that?
We have a lot of new players on the team, so there are players that didn't experience that. The ones that did certainly better remember and understand that, more importantly, that you're facing a really good program that, obviously we went to their place and got beat up pretty good last year, and that's who's coming to town this week. And so, Coach Venables done an amazing job instilling a culture there. And, we got a team that is coming here hungry. They're in the hunt for a lot of different things as far as reaching their goals. But, for us, we do then try to make sure that we always are focused on really this team being, what we're centered on and us improving. And that's the focus is, again, how did we get to this point this year to where we've had the success? What's it going to take to be our best on Saturday? And so again, you try to hone in on that, but you can't help but remember, the past. And those questions that you asked just now were also asked, a few weeks ago when we played Vanderbilt and so forth. And so, our guys, should remember that because our experiences help us be better the next time around.
Go back middle, Alex. I believe you had a question.
Two unrelated questions. One, what can you tell us about Cam Dewberry, his injury, and his status this week? And then the relationship with Dave Roberts. Can you kind of tell us where that started and how that formed?
Yeah, I expect Cam to be ready to go. He got dinged up a little bit in the game, but he's looking good. He might be early in the week, held up some, but should be fine as the week goes on as far as what I see right now and hear as well. So with Dave Roberts, just a couple of years ago, got a chance to go watch a Dodgers game with Alexis, my daughter. She's softball, and so baseball, that piece right there, it was just fun to go there and watch a game and got to spend some time with him, in the clubhouse afterwards. And I was just blown away at, first of all, how much time he gave me in the middle of his season. I know how hard that is as a coach myself. And then we've just stayed in touch. And this summer I went up and saw him play up in Milwaukee. And again, we just stay in touch. I can't help but notice how great of a job he does of bringing these guys together that he manages. They're all such great players, but he finds a way to have a role for each of them. Having just such a low ego and enjoying the process of what they're doing and finding ways to win, and the resiliency it took. Obviously, the last 2 years in both World Series, it's just amazing. And I think there's a lot of similarities, in our styles. Maybe there's probably differences too. It's a different sport, but. I got a lot of admiration for how he manages and how he gives his time, and the presence he has when he walks into a room, it just really blows me away. And again, him coming here this last weekend, something that was kind of on the docket, going back quite some time. I think probably a month or two ago, and so I was really looking forward to it. And I think he had, they had a great time watching the game, but we also had a great time. Taking a few nuggets to learn from to help us be better as coaches and be better as players.
Let's go right across the aisle to Joe.
Coach, a couple weeks ago, Lane Kiffin insinuated that Oklahoma, Brent Venables, was very good at stealing signs or gathering information. Just what's your perspective on that as you go into this week against Oklahoma, into the offensive play calling process as it pertains to game day?
Yeah, you got to adjust. I think across the board, across the country, there's some element of every team doing something, and so for us, I think our staff does a pretty good job, but you certainly got to make sure you're always, doing your best to change things up. And, we got huddle, no huddle, and there's a lot of different things we do too. So I don't, we just got to continue to do what we've done, not just this year, but years past as well.
Front row, Colin, right on the left.
Hey, Kalen, there's kind of this coaching cliche that, the horizontal passing game can be an extension of the run game. I'm curious, do you buy into that? Is that something that could kind of lead to more, shots downfield if the run game isn't working?
Yeah, I mean, totally. I think that's a lot of what our offense has done over the years. But you still want to be better in the run game than what we are, and we have been. So I don't think it's a systematic thing that we have with our structure. But you want to make a defense have to defend everything from sideline to sideline, and have them be concerned about what you're going to do vertically. And so we can talk forever because I would love to, because I love that part of it, the style and the schematics of it. But you saw in the game the other day. I mean, we had tight ends catching it on perimeter screens off of some runs. Isaiah Horton had some just different things to stretch the defense this way, to open up seams, to be able to run the football, and then the run game opens up the play action, which is now more of the vertical piece, and even your screens and goes and things like that. That's a part of, I think, what most good offenses do.
Back left, Theo.
Coach, you look at some of the struggles Connor Talty's had, and you obviously went 2 games before this one, the past 2, without attempting a field goal. How has it affected your team's decision-making on 4th down, as far as, maybe going for it in situations, punting it on some of the further, and how do you think that'll play out over the course of the season with regards to having him kick?
I actually don't think it's affected me much at all. He kicked a 40+ yard field goals in the game. One got us the early lead, 3-0, and then the one at the end makes it a 2-score game. And that's, I think it was 44 maybe, somewhere in there. The one that they missed, I think the great kickers can overcompensate for maybe the execution of the rest of the snap and the hold not being perfect. And that's going to continue to be the growth. And him, I think the thing that I really like is when he's had maybe one that didn't go well, he's able to respond and come back and make the next one. And there's been some big ones that he's made that have stretched games, and it's been maybe in the last minute, but it's been late. And so, I just think it's just part of the growth. This is really his first year out there, and him being able to respond and just take whatever happened, move it off to the side, and go make the next one because that's what's in front of him. That's what you got to do. And I think we punted probably about as close as we've been all year. Late in the game there, and that's the one that we pinned him deep. But we were just so far out, and it was, I think, a 3rd or 4th and extra pretty long. And so, even to me, that really wasn't one that was as hard of a decision. But I really can't say that it's affected, my choices to go. I think we're going to be aggressive. You guys have heard that from me. We're going to play to win at the right times. But, we get down in there. I trust our defense, too. If we don't convert, like we did, early in the game, I trust that our defense will have a great mindset to go out there and go play ball, and it doesn't affect them. You can't put them in bad spots over and over again, but they're gonna bow up and do their job, and we've talked about that a lot in team meetings.
Let's finish up with Emily Grace, right in the middle.
Coach, you mentioned the process. Coach Grubb mentioned the process. This time of the year, when the noise continues to ramp up, how important is it for your team and even your staff to stay focused on that process, fall in love with the process, not necessarily the dividends of that?
Yeah, I think this year, every year's got noise, right? But I think this year it's been so much different types of noise that we've had to deal with that, again, we've become, I think, a pretty good team when it comes to pushing that out and understanding that what's in front of us is all about us and, how we think, how we respond, the work we put in. And so, tomorrow morning, I already told the guys on Sunday, we got a hard reset. We go back to work, and we understand our strengths, we understand our weaknesses, who we are as a team, and we just continue to get better. And so you're exactly right. That process and that weekly process, we need to keep refining individually and as a team what we're doing, evaluating now as we get in the season. What's our practice plan look like? Just the little tweaks, and you learn from years and years and years of coaching, you know, what that should look like, what worked, what didn't work. And then the players, you know, what's the note-taking process look like? What's the rehab process, recovery, and all of that. And so there's so many pieces to it. And then the mental part that you're talking about, where what everyone says doesn't matter. You know, there's still so much football to be played. We have big games, and, you know, none's bigger than the one right in front of us. So I think we'll be pretty locked in.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Thank you.